Writing can be daunting. It requires a specific amount of vulnerability and openness to be critiqued, and it's intimidating because you're bearing parts of your soul out there for the world to perceive and judge and critique if your goal is to be published. That being said, I think it's very important to remember why you write. Writing is one of the most soul-satisfying things I find, but you also face a lot of rejection in writing, and it can be a very tumultuous field, and there's those moments where things are going perfectly well and the words are flowing out of you, but then you also get hit with writer's block and you feel like it's impossible to even write a simple sentence. I've been experiencing these things recently, just a whole bunch of different emotions surrounding writing, and I decided to curate or create a list of books to read in order to help me remember why I write by some of my favorite authors. The first section of this video will be me recommending or talking about books that I've read on writing recently, and the second half of this will be my TBR. I am first going to discuss the books that I have read recently, and the first book being Upstream by Mary Oliver. This book is a collection of essays that are a mix of just like personal narrative from Mary Oliver, as well as literary analysis and criticism on her favorite writers. But specifically, there is an essay in here that I think is very, very beneficial for those of you who may be experiencing writer's block or who want to feel like inspired and invigorated to write again. And that essay is called Of Power and Time. And what I noticed a lot about this is that it was very important for Mary Oliver to be in solitude, which is what Of Power and Time discusses, and just really connecting and observing and just taking inspiration from the natural world. If you don't know who Mary Oliver is, she is a Pulitzer Prize American poet who recently passed away, I believe, in 2019, but her work is phenomenal. Some of my favorite poetry on nature and the human condition. And Upstream is just a nice collection of essays of Mary Oliver recounting countless times when she was walking upstream in the woods by her house and just ruminating on nature. But what I really liked about this is how she describes that the body is built for movement, and writing requires you to sit still, and that kind of internal turmoil of wanting to walk and move your body, but then also like needing your body to be still so your mind can kind of run off with ideas. So yeah, there's numerous reasons why I really enjoyed this book, but I highly recommend it. Mary Oliver also has essays in here on Edgar Allan Poe, on Walt Whitman, and a few others who I'm blinking out on, but I definitely recommend you read Upstream. A common theme that I've noticed throughout reading some of these books on my TBR list is the importance of devotion, and I read Patti Smith's essay for the Why I Write series titled Devotion, and in this essay it's broken down into 4 parts, I believe. And at first we kind of get insight into why she loves visiting Paris, the many influences and the literary greats who come from Paris. She talks about that, and then she includes a story that she wrote while on this trip, and then afterwards she goes back and says like why she wrote the story, and everything just ties together so beautifully. In my opinion, this was a really good look into Patti Smith's creative process in terms of being at a place, feeling inspired by a place, writing something that comes from said place, and then kind of the aftermath of that and the fallout of that, which I thought was really good. At the end, she talks about how Albert Camus' family invited her to his house, and she wrote at his desk, and she saw the final manuscript that he was carrying the night that he died. And I don't know, this book was very inspiring just in terms of staying devoted to writing and to craft. Up next, I had to read the Why I Write essay written by Joan Didion. which is in this collection of essays that I have. Let me tell you what I mean. Now, you could read this entire essay collection, as it includes pieces of Joan's literary, I'm sorry, not her literary, her journalistic writing. Also has the iconic picture of Joan on the back. Joan Didion is one of my favorite writers. There is something so subtle yet very profound in the way that she constructs sentences. It feels like as you're reading, each sentence compounds onto the other, and then you get this beautiful thought at the end, or this beautiful story that happens so fast and so quick, you almost get whiplash from it. That's how I felt about reading Played as It Lays. One of my favorite books. Just the writing is phenomenal. So I had to read Joan's Why I Write essay, and in this essay she talks about the importance of language and how it sounds, and constructing sentences and mulling over sentences over and over again so that phonetically everything sounds nice and there's no extra fluff, which is so nice, especially with writing poetry. I find that's something I do when I'm in the editing process or when I'm writing. But something that I related to so much on Joan and this Why I Write essay is she talked about the importance of keeping your ideas to yourself as a writer, because you lose a bit of that magic and fascination that you have with the idea when you constantly talk to someone else about it. And then you can also get influenced by their thoughts on it. And I just thought that that was so real, because I felt the same way about it, but I just never heard another writer express it that way. I believe that you can just find the essay online. If I do find it online, I'll link it down below if you don't want to buy this whole book or read this whole book. But I do recommend it because there are some like interesting journalism topics that she writes on in this as well. And recently I read Letters to a Young Poet by Maria Rilke, and I just thought that this was such a nice, heartwarming reminder of the importance of not only writing, but also of living life and being whole on your own and enjoying your solitude, and the importance of love and how the heart can hold so many different emotions. And this collection is translated from German, and it is a collection of 10 letters over many years that Rilke wrote to a younger poet who was writing him for advice on writing. We see that Rilke comments on poems that the poet sends to him, and then he also like couples that with advice on life, and it's just so beautiful. It's a common theme throughout all of these, of the importance of solitude in creation, and really kind of inhabiting your mind and finding out what inspires you or what themes you're fascinated by, and different ways that you can look at common occurrences in life and translate that into something that talks about the human condition in writing, which is what I strive to do. Here's a very small TBR that I have. It is a few books. As I'm gonna go along, I'm just gonna keep adding books. I know there's so many, so if you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. But I have recently refallen or reinvigorated my love for Toni Morrison, and after finishing Sula, I just became so fascinated with the importance of Morrison's writing as a Black woman in the 70s, publishing Black stories about Black women. I picked up Playing in the Dark: Whiteness and the Literary Imagination by Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison's brilliant discussions of the Africanist presence in the fiction of Poe, Melville, Cather, and Hemingway leads to a dramatic reappraisal of the essential characteristics of our literary tradition. She shows how much the themes of freedom and individualism, manhood and innocence depend on the existence of a Black population that was manifestly unfree, and that came to serve white authors as embodiments of their own fears and desires. I cannot wait to read this. This is definitely going to be up next on my writer TBR priority TBR. Toni Morrison's writing is something that is pure magic, and she writes about very tough and devastating topics, but you're just blown away by the writing, and I love her. She is, of course, one of my favorite writers, especially as a Black woman, someone that I look up to and I can't wait to read this. Also, I have recently fallen in love with Elena Ferrante's writing, so up next on my TBR is In the Margins, on the pleasures of reading and writing. And the blurb says, here in these 4 crisp essays, Ferrante offers a rare look at the origins of her literary powers. She writes about her influences, her struggles, and her formation as both a reader and a writer. She describes the perils of bad language and suggests ways in which it has long excluded women's truths. She proposes a choral fusion of feminine talent as she brightly discourses on the work of Emily Dickinson, Gertrude Stein, Ingeborg Bachmann, and many others. Another exciting read for me. This just, like, a lot of people or like professors will say in college, or you know, writers will say how important it is to be a good reader in order to be a good writer, which is something that I've been working on personally. It's just reading more and absorbing as much as I can. I've been saying I'm in my absorption years, which just means that I am writing badly as much as I can and reading as much as I can. Up next, I have Body Work, and this is The Radical Power of Personal Narrative by Melissa Febos. And it's a bold mix of memoir and masterclass. Febos tackles the emotional, psychological, and physical work of writing intimately while offering an utterly fresh examination of the storyteller's life and the questions that run through it. I think as a writer, and this is why I typically enjoy reading literary fiction with female writers as main characters, we have a tendency to want to narrativize our own lives and basically do things for the experience of being able to write about it later. This is off topic, but I read Either Or by Elif Batuman this year, as well as The Idiot, but specifically Either Or, that is the main theme of the main character, and it's just something that I have not related to more. So many times, or at least I've encountered writers say, well, in order to write, you just gotta live life and have experiences and then write about them. Which, yeah, of course, like, duh. But yeah, so this is Body Work. I've heard nothing but great things about this. And then lastly, I want to read Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. And the blurb here says some instructions on writing in life. On the back, it says, this is an essential volume for generations of writers, young and old. Bird by Bird is a modern classic. It's a warm, generous, and hilarious guide through the writer's world and its treacherous swamps, and one of the funniest books on writing ever published. So I cannot wait to read this as well. And yes, these are all of the books that I have read recently or plan to read on writing. Writing to me is just something that I have always done and I've always gravitated towards. Ever since I was literally a child, I've been an avid reader and a writer. I can think of so many stories that I started on old computer desktops and in my notebooks and poems that I've written. So it just feels so nice to be able to really get back into it and begin to take it seriously, or not that I wasn't taking it seriously, but to nurture that desire and that gravitational pull that I feel towards writing. So this is my list. I know how people get about writing, so please be kind and share your recommendations, or if you've read any of these, let me know what you thought of them. We can discuss in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in reading any of my writing or keeping up to date with that, you can follow me on Instagram. It's linked down below. And please like the video and subscribe. It's cost-free and it just supports my channel. And I greatly, greatly appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!